Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. Today we're going to talk about happiness. Maybe wealthy, happy go together a little bit hand in hand. How do you define happiness in your life? Think about that. What's your baseline for deciding, where you're going to sit in terms of happiness? Today, Tom Guetzke, a happiness expert and happyologist, if you will, is here to share with us some success that he's had in speaking and some details about the happiness factor. Welcome to the podcast, Tom.
Thanks, Jane. It's great to be here. I'm happy.
I know. And that's why I wanted to have you on. Every time you've ever come on to any of our masterminds, or if we're doing one-on-one coaching, it's always been an absolute joy to see your face on the Zoom screen. And I just want to say thank you for just showing up the way that you show up, because it's a beautiful thing. And you walk your talk, Tom. You have fun orange glasses on, and there's some happiness behind you, but it really does show on your face. How do you do that every single day?
I start happy. The big thing is how you start your day.
Yeah.
And so many people, I used to grab my phone, you think of it as I learned more and did more of the research, you realize that you can be, sound asleep in this alpha state, just resting and this and that, and you grab your phone. Well, right away you grab that phone and it's, oh, I got this appointment. I got to get the kids to soccer. I've got to remember to do this. And it changes your blood chemistry because adrenaline and these negative hormones pump into your system. And the amazing thing is research has shown us that just 3 minutes of that negative behavior in the morning, and it could be turning on one of those happy morning shows, which teach you about all that's going on in the world, and you have that same impact. It impacts your body, your blood chemistry. You double your chances of having a bad day, and it lasts for up to 8 hours, which is amazing because it's not a light switch. Our hormones are not a light switch. They just go on and off. So once you start them, they keep going. But the good news is you can flip that, because that's what I do. I learned that I just not do those things in the morning. So I take some me time, either some meditation,
Well, I want to get into kind of some happiness habits here shortly. So let me first ask you a little bit about your kind of career in business. What were you doing before you got into speaking?
Before I got into speaking, I had started speaking quite a few years ago, but it was with corporation, involved in a corporation. I worked for Whirlpool Corporation and traveled the world, about 65 countries, was president of Europe, and just did a lot of that kind of traveling. But most of my speaking was, at that point, I kind of had a little teaser that I enjoyed speaking. But it was with teleprompters and stuff, which, as we know, is very different speaking.
Yes.
But then it was something I wanted to pursue and get more involved in. And so when I made the decision to get out of corporate America and pursue my own life, that's when I really kind of got involved with the speaking.
I did not know president of Whirlpool. Was it Europe?
Yeah. KitchenAid. It was KitchenAid Europe at the time. We had just acquired Whirlpool, so it was lived over there in Brussels for 3 years. So
learn something new about you every time we talk, and that is absolutely fascinating that you had that background. I mean, talk about high stakes. So when you first started out in speaking 20 years ago, what topic were you thinking about speaking about?
Well, when I first started, it was Toastmasters. So it was going through the Toastmasters books, and got my distinguished Toastmaster, and I became Toastmaster of the Year. But that was all kinds of topics. But what I really enjoyed, at that point, I was speaking more about marketing, because my background was in marketing, the psychology of marketing. What colors, why do people buy what they buy? So it wasn't clinical psychology, but more marketing psychology that I was involved with. So most of my presentations and speaking were on that for years.
Okay. And you went down the road and thought, okay. And you've even kept on the side some CMO positions kind of as consulting gigs, right?
Right, correct. Yeah. So I have maintained, several clients that I act as the chief marketing officer for their organization. So as a fractional position, oftentimes there are companies that can't afford to bring in a full-time position. And so I'm able to work on that, which I love because they're all different industries. I've got everything from a company that designs stents to fun businesses that make shave ice equipment and flavors. And so kind of all over, which is really fun for me.
That is so interesting. And they're lucky to have you, a smart guy like yourself. But at some point, you decided that you wanted to go down the happiness path. What caused a change in lane?
Um, well, I had been doing a lot of, speaking on the corporate environment and everything like that. And at that point, I was taking care of my parents.
Mm.
My dad was at that time like in his late or middle 90s. And so I had several years there where I really got to spend time with him. And it was fascinating. He was on Omaha Beach and Battle of the Bulge and Liberation of Paris, freed the concentration camp. So there's just a great story that I really got to spend a lot of time with him.
Yes.
And it made me think about did I want to continue to speak on marketing, and I said, no, there's always been involved in the happiness or psychology. And so I really went back and did some advanced studies in positive psychology at Penn University, and then studied more on happiness at Yale and UC Berkeley. So really got into that because to me, this was just a passion of mine. And I see the difference it makes when I speak to people and they discover that they're responsible for their own happiness. It's like you see them light up. And so that really made my change. And that was probably in 4 or 5 years ago, that I really did that.
And I'm assuming your parents are both passed now.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
passed at 97. So
Sorry, that is not easy to go through. And I bet you're not the first son or daughter who reevaluated their life after seeing someone through end of life.
right. Yeah, it does kind of make you reflect and think about what do I want my legacy, or what do I want going forward? And at the time my kids were growing up and off to college, and I was like, so I felt like I had a new clean chapter starting, just a blank page, and I could put whatever I wanted on that page. But so it was a lot of that thinking and saying, what is my next several years going to look like? Are they going to look just like the last 5 years, or are they going to be different?
It's interesting. My mom's 93 and her caregiving has been so consuming. And
Mhm.
wonder if I'll find myself feeling like, what do I do with my time, afterwards? So that's
Yeah,
a
it is.
conversation
That
for
was a very unique thing because you're kind of always on call and you're always that. And I realized that after they had passed, and they had no regrets, both my mom and dad had no regrets. They were ready to go. And so it was very easy, but from that standpoint. But yeah, all of a sudden I found myself going, it was like this just giant burden was lifted off. So it was a bit of a gift that you don't realize, because when you're in the middle of it, it's just what you do.
just you
So
doing it. And for those of you who are trying to run a business, run a family of your own, and caretake for parents, I bow to you.
mhm.
We don't have any kids in the house, so we have 6 grandkids, and they're all out being taken care of by others, which is a beautiful thing. And so I feel like we have a bit more of an ability, but for people who are in the sandwich generation, I really feel for them. And that's a lot. It's a lot. So okay, so you transition into happiness, and with a corporate application, because that makes perfect sense, that you are able talk about some of the statistics that you offer your clients that speaks to how happiness affects their bottom line.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing is, kind of when I started this was, obviously pre-pandemic and everything else. And at that time, people thought of happiness as it's kind of a luxury, or it's that kumbaya group hug stuff and everything. But I think all the research and everything that has come out has really impacted. And I think especially now post pandemic, people have seen the impact in their workers, and research tells us about the impact of happiness. So companies that focus on happiness in their organization and look at the whole person, it's not just, I always laugh at work-life balance, because it's like, well, what, when you get to work, it's not your life? No, it's all your life, whether you're at work or at home. We all
Yes.
have one life. And so having people happy, I mean, there's 125% less burnout, there's less turnover, 50% less turnover, 66% less sick leave. So all of that, higher retention, which is huge now, but and innovation, 300%. And I mean, even productivity and sales, is, happy companies see a 31% higher productivity in sales. So it's good for business. It's not just a nice to do thing.
So for our listeners, if you're kind of in the early stages or maybe transitioning your lane, and you have a corporate application to that lane, really look at some of the research to allow you to show them how your help can really impact their bottom line. And I think you got into the happiness equation kind of before it was really cool. And so it was a bit of an uphill battle. It was a bit of a sell. So it was really smart for you to get this research and be able to share with people, hey, this is really going to impact your bottom line. And I'm kind of excited about when we get to work together kind of one-on-one, we get to talk more about what that looks like in your own marketing.
Right.
So you've had this beautiful journey. When you transitioned, was that an easy transition? You went from being a marketing person over to happiness. Talk a little bit about maybe the muck in the middle of it all, because it's not always easy to make a transition. It's kind of scary sometimes too, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's difficult. And when I was speaking on marketing, it was more, through companies and marketing, I'd be asked to speak and that kind of stuff. So it really wasn't the business of speaking. And it was really after I had moved here, I said, no, this is the business of speaking now. And so I was involved with NSA in Minnesota. I went through the NSA, they have a great program in Minnesota on the apprentice program. And it was a 2-year working with some of the top speakers, in the country.
Yes.
There's several past presidents from NSA and, a lot of Hall of Famers that are here. And so working with them really gave me that business side, and see the application or see that tie of how do you market. I knew how to market, but not necessarily speaking.
Yeah.
So now it kind of bridged that gap that I could understand marketing and how to market speaking and work with that. So.
Okay, so tell us about your business today, because I've watched you just in the last couple of years just evolve and grow and doubling your business and tripling your business. It's like, what's going on? It's been beautiful to watch, Tom. What does your business model look like?
My business model, it's very interesting. It's unique. I've learned that it's very different from the standpoint of, I have applications that apply to the individual, so it's like, live happy, and it's about their lives. Then there's the culture, a company's culture, where I work with companies maybe over a year or more, helping them to create that happy culture.
Yes.
And then with that culture comes the happy leader. So that's really one of the focuses I've been focusing on now, is the happy leader, and helping those leaders learn how to create happiness, help their people to grow. And some of them, by leadership, we learn the old models of, we find what's wrong with our people and try and change them to fit what we need, versus someone's got a talent or a superpower. Let's drive that and build a complement over here to their weakness, and build a team that's made of people that really work well together that way.
That's beautiful. And wouldn't you say that the whole mental health conversation is only going to get bigger in our industry, and that especially post-COVID, that people are much more aware of how people are feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely see that in some of the companies, and obviously companies that identify that as a need, and those are companies I'll speak for, or put together programs, ongoing, wellness or mental health programs to help them. But yeah, I think more and more companies are realizing that, and individuals are, they're aware of their own mental health and the importance of that. Because if you're going to work and you're miserable, you're not going to come home and be happy. And so it's important that you live your best life fully rounded, and finding happiness in the work environment, at home, or wherever it is, that combination.
So what are the kind of companies that are putting a focus on this? Do you want to do some name dropping here?
Sure. It was great. I just did one last week because it was Women's Health Week. So I worked with Hilti. Hilti is a large multinational corporation, and it was Women's Week, so it was just the women's group. Although it was surprising, there's several men in that group too. But because they're spread out all over, it was virtual, which I hadn't done virtual for a little while. It seems like most stuff had been live, which I like, but this was great. It was great to meet so many people from all over the world and interact. And I just did the national sales meeting for General Mills, and that's a company that really is focused on that and making sure their employees, and it's a challenge, especially when you have employees spread out all over and you're not having that come into the office. So I think a lot of companies have that challenge they're facing with, how do you manage that? It was easy when everyone was in the same office and together all the time.
Yes.
Now they're not. So it creates, you have to work even harder to create that.
Pull people in and help them feel engaged. And so it's probably not even a one-stop, yes, you can come in and do the parachute keynote.
Yeah.
But is it not something that opens up opportunities for you for consulting and long-term, year-long programs where you're building a culture versus, just saying, hey, happiness is important?
Yeah, for me, that's an easy conversation to have with them when I get that, hey, we want you to come in and keynote, at our national meeting or whatever. And it's like, great. And, as we dig into it, why, well, we really need to work on, our people. We want them to be happy. It's like, well, okay, a keynote's, a 60-minute deal or a 90-minute deal. That's not going to change the needle really. People are going to feel great walking out of there and energized, but you have to reinforce that, because change happens over time. It's not a light switch, same thing, and so being able to work with them to create a monthly program where maybe I do a short little video, and then we have some information that gets out to everyone.
Nice.
And I've done that with some really interesting companies that, have 24-hour operations. So it has to be available to them, via online or accessible.
That's beautiful. Great question to ask. Well, how long would you like this message to last? You want the message. How long would you like it to last? Well, as long as humanly possible. Okay, well, let's talk about
how long do you want your people to be happy?
Yeah.
It's like
till they leave, like the session. Is that what you're looking for? I love that. Okay, so I just really want to reiterate that it's been an absolute joy to kind of watch you doing this business and grow it and evolve it. And I think, you're showing up happy to the party has been such a huge part of that. Let's just share some of those happiness habits that we talked about at the beginning of the call. Number one is, let's leave our phone in place for how long?
Well, start your day happy. So that's not grabbing your phone right away, taking some time for yourself, making sure that you take a little me time in the morning, meaning, whether it's just sitting out having coffee, relaxing in the morning, but meditating. Some people read, some people journal, whatever, is taking time for yourself. Because the good news is, just like the negative lasts for up to 8 hours, the positive does too. So if you release these positive hormones into your system,
Mm.
it's very powerful in terms of the impact it has on your day. And
Ah,
sometimes we don't realize it. I know I had a woman who contacted me. She goes, "Gosh, that 3 minute thing bugged me." And she said, "You know what? I realized that in the morning when I'm running around and barking at my kids and I'm parking in my head, trying to get out the door and everything," she goes, "I realized that for my husband and 2 kids, I am their 3 minutes of negative." And so she decided, I don't want to be that. I want to be their 3 minutes of positive. And the
yeah.
same is true. I want them going out that door. The world is tough enough out there. So I want to give them their 3 minutes of positive. So now she's said, I'm positive in the morning. I lift them up,
Mhm.
give them compliments, hugs, whatever it is, so that when they go out in the world, they're going out with a smile on their face. So
What an amazing realization. So for you parents who are scrambling to get kids out the door, get kids out the door. Is there anything, my grandson is 15. And the minute we say, okay, we're getting ready to leave, he gets distracted and goes and does something else. Like, dude, we're leaving. I just told you we're leaving. Go and put on your shoes, for goodness sakes. He drives me a little bit crazy sometimes. So I think that what you're saying is so, so important.
mhm,
Because in my mind, I'm not going to a happy place. Let him,
yeah,
go off, be happy. I'm just like, out the door. So I think that's really important. If people take care of themselves first
yes,
and get into a state where they're thinking something positive, that is so incredible. The news these days, and I've talked about it in,
yeah,
videos and podcasts and things like that. The news these days can really start to weigh you down.
yes,
If you are an avid watcher of the news, really try a news cleanse, and see how
yes.
it makes you feel in the mornings, especially if you're watching it first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it differently in the day, and that would accommodate the same thing.
yeah, I truly believe that happiness is an inside job, and it's up to each of us, um, be intentional about happiness. We can create happiness in our life, but you have to be intentional. How you look at it and everything else will determine that outcome. So if
Yeah.
you're occupying your brain with negative thoughts and those negative self tapes and all those things going on, that becomes your reality.
Yes. Yeah.
And the same is true with the happiness. If you're focused on things that make you happy and finding the positive in your world, that will become your life.
So I think in terms of some homework for people, first of all, really evaluate how you're starting your day and whether or not you can put some of the happiness habits into your morning routine, whether it be meditation, or maybe it's just taking some quiet time for you sitting with your coffee. You get up 3 to 5 minutes early so that you can have that Zen moment alone before the chaos ensues. Um, Also, I think the reason in this whole coaching thing that I've taught you in the school, and I've been talking about for a long time, we have a circumstance, and then we have a thought, and then we have a feeling. And we keep the new circumstance neutral. If you even think just about COVID, everybody reacted to and thought about COVID differently.
Mhm.
So that's why we keep it neutral. So you might be saying to yourself, how can I possibly be happy under this circumstance? It is a conscious, intentional, you have to be really, really dedicated to
Yes.
choosing happiness. Maybe you're in the middle of an aging parent in decline. That's going to be a really difficult time to choose happiness. How did you manage through that, Tom? I know you were kind of just at the beginning of the happiness research, probably.
Yeah.
How that
What
happened.
one of the one of
Just
the biggest things I think is that I focus, or yeah, yes, and this actually came a lot from my dad too, is focusing on can and can't control. And it turned out I ended up working with the US Olympic team on exactly that. So top athletes, you would think they'd focus on winning and that kind of stuff. And it's like they don't control that. Otherwise they'd win every game, wouldn't they? And so and the same is true as speakers. I mean, you focus on, well, getting that gig or getting this or getting it. It's like, we don't control what other people do.
No.
Whether that person's going to say yes, whether that committee is going to say yes, we don't
Yes.
control that. We
No.
don't control other people's opinions, other people's actions. What we do control is our own attitude, our own effort. Are we positive? Are we easy to work with?
Yes.
Our effort, do we work on our stagecraft? Do we work at being the best we can be? Our behavior and our actions, are they consistent? Our
Yeah.
marketing consistent, that pays dividends, those seeds that are being planted.
Mm.
And our reactions, when things don't go like we control that.
Yes.
And so those are the important things, is focusing on what we can control in our
Focus
lives.
And
When you let go of those other things, it's amazing. It's like, because if you really, we think we spend most of our time on that, which creates stress, but the reality is we don't control it. But the
Yeah.
minute you let go of it and focus on what you do control, you actually are more successful.
Yes. And when you've done the best job you could at, say, you're on the short list and there's 3 other speakers, and you show up and talk through to the client in your best, most confident self, that's all
Yeah.
you can do. That's the part you can control, how you
Right.
engage with them, the conversation that you have, the questions that you ask. What they do after that is completely out of your control. I really loved, back when I was dating, a book called He's Just Not That Into You. Took it off of me to be what he wanted,
Right.
and just was like, okay, we're just not a match. It's not a good fit.
Yeah, it's
And
when we try to force, or we get stressed out, we get all stressed out trying to, we've got to make this happen. Well, now you're not coming across as your true self.
yes.
Once you accept that they're going to make their decision, all I can do is be my best and be my best me. And if this is right for them, then it's right. If it's not, it's not.
Yes. If I'm the perfect fit for this event, then I will get it.
Yes.
I don't get it this year, maybe I'll get it next year. That's
Right.
the perfect way. When you've done all the work, then you just release it out into the world. That's one of the principles of manifesting from Wayne Dyer, by the way, is just release from the outcome.
Yep.
Let it go, because you can't really control what people are thinking at the other end.
Right.
Oh, maybe I should send one more thing. No, just release, let it go. Okay. Well, Tom, if people want to get in touch with you and connect with you, what should they do?
Probably the easiest way is go to my website, livehappy.me, and connect through that. And if they do want a copy of the 5 happy habits, they could use, we can put that in the notes. It's talk.ac/happy, and enter the code word happy, and you'll get a PDF of that. I get that request that when I speak all the time, that people want to put it on their mirrors and remind themselves every morning and stuff. So I have a card that's kind of squeeze the day challenge. Instead of seize the day, I call it squeeze the day. Get as much happiness out of it as you can.
I love that. Give the URL to get the freebie again.
It's talk.ac/happy.
Okay.
And then the code word is, of course, happy. Just enter the code word happy.
People. Tom, thank you so much. I mean it when I say I really look forward to seeing your face.
I don't know. I need new
you
glasses, I think.
so much. It's not just the glasses, it's because what's going on from within comes through, and I really appreciate you and that about you, and I'm looking forward to getting together with you soon.
And Jane, I've appreciated so much working with you, and you've made, as a mentor and as a coach, you've made such a difference in my life and my career. So I can't say enough about you, and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you haven't picked your copy up yet, The Wealthy Speaker 3.0 is available on Amazon. Well, thank you so much for listening today. And with that, we'll say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now.